Nice to
So
meet
much.
you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you so much. This was a really fun movie and a really fun character. Wow. Can you talk about getting that role and kind of getting into the mindset of the character?
So, so getting the role was absolutely insane. I'm still so just astounded at everything, all the doors that's open, and the fact that that door in and of itself was even there. I'm so blessed and just so humbled. But it was actually a requested audition.
Mhm.
So what that means, essentially, for those who might not know, is that it was a closed audition. So I didn't have access to any of the other characters or to read for any other characters. They actually, um, I would have to assume that my agent must have like pitched me to the producers and said, "Hey, we think this would be a good fit for NiKo."
Mhm.
They must have heard my reels, liked it, and then they sent me the sides for how. Um, and I initially wasn't even gonna do it because it was an on camera audition.
Mhm.
And I get really shy being on camera, and I had no idea that it was requested. I didn't, I didn't realize at first. And then my agent was like, "Hey, you gonna submit for this?" And I was like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" So I sang "No One" by Alicia Keys as my
Mhm.
audition song, which is a classic. And yeah, as far as getting into character and kind of finding that character, I feel like it definitely just came very naturally to me. I'm a very
Right.
bubbly person. Um, and it actually, I remember I did a little bit of a voice for the audition. And when it came time to go into my first session, I was speaking to you like speaking to them
Right.
how I'm speaking to you like right now. And then I go to read my first line and I bring my voice up a little bit and they were like, "We actually really like your voice. Like just do that." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." Great.
That's
So,
wonderful.
yeah.
So what's interesting is your character is slightly based on Happy from Snow
Yes.
White. Did you read into that when you got the audition and when they approved you and it's like be on our movie? Did you kind of look into that to see the similarities?
So, they initially, with the audition itself, they didn't mention that or anything. I didn't find
Mhm.
out until I went to my first session. I was like, oh, that makes so much sense now. But I had seen Snow White, of course. I mean,
Right.
who hasn't at this point? It's a classic. But I had seen Snow White, so I thought the implementation of the personalities of the Seven Dwarfs was super, super cool. And once they said that, and I kind of connected all of the dots, I realized like, wow, like I'm working with some really cool writers. This is a really, really cool thing that I'm a part of. And I was able to kind of incorporate that into the character. But a lot of how was really just me, which is super cool. That's such an honor is to be able to play a character who doesn't feel like I'm playing anybody at all. It just feels
Right.
like me.
That's so cool. Now, did you get to look at any of the animation in order to get a feel for the character? How did they break that down to you?
So essentially, it was a mostly a storyboarding process.
Hmm.
So I would see they would kind of show me slideshows of concepts and ideas. So essentially, I would kind of see like kind of like animatics of the
Hmm.
characters and interacting, and it would just kind of be like a slideshow. And I'd have my lines in front of me, and they'd break down the scene for me and just say this is what's happening, this is what you're looking at, and they'd read me in, and that's kind of how it would work.
Okay, now talking about the musical element, you said that you did a song as well. It's a nice, wonderful musical. So I was
Mhm.
wondering, can you talk about how long that process was to get the songs, understand it, break down, learn it, to recording? Was it also on the same day as voice recording as well?
Yeah, so it actually was. So initially, the first two, I want to say 2 or 3 sessions were just voice acting, and then my last session, we started off with voice acting, and then we went into singing.
Hmm.
And it kind of was I learned everything that same day. So essentially what would happen is they played the song for me,
Hmm.
or the songs for me. Um and I kind of followed along on the sheet music, and I was like, there I am. That's where I come
Mhm.
in. And essentially we did some warm-ups, and from there we would kind of just play the part before I came in,
Right.
and excuse me, um and they would play it on the piano for me, and there was also a demo that I had been listening to kind of hear what it would sound like. Thankfully,
Right.
I had prior experience with like chorus and sight reading and that sort of thing. I'm so sorry, my cat is so
Okay.
loud.
No, it's okay.
Come on. But thankfully I had experience with chorus and sight reading and that sort of thing. So it wasn't super difficult. But yeah, we did everything in one day, which was wild, but it came out so good in the end. So
Right. I love the chemistry of the movie. Can you talk about kind of blending in with the cast? Were you there physically with everyone, or was it just you on one day and you didn't see everybody else?
So I actually have not met anybody else yet. We
Oh wow.
recorded, yeah, I recorded solo.
Hmm.
We were gonna try to get everybody together, but with scheduling conflicts and that sort of thing, I think it just ended up being easier. Um, but yeah, hopefully it's not the end, and hopefully we all get to reconvene and meet up with each other. That would be super cool. I'm holding out for that.
Lovely. Now, as a voice actor, I was wondering, by you just sitting there in the booth by yourself, is it more freeing that way as opposed to having the entire cast there? Or does that, you wish that it was there so it would change kind of the impact of the scene?
So I definitely think having everyone together would definitely be a little bit better as far as the
Mhm.
recording process is concerned. I feel like as an actor, you should still be able to put yourself into those situations, to
Mhm.
be able to read your lines and visualize these people who are not here being there. And they definitely did a really good job of helping to set up those scenes. The producers would read me in, and so that I could kind of hear what the lines would sound like, which would help a lot with visualizing, like, okay, Gabbo's saying this, okay, Bazima's saying
Mhm.
that, and then now it's my turn, which definitely helped. But also, maybe it's just my desire to have been able to meet
Mhm.
everybody, but being able to kind of get a feel for that chemistry, I definitely think that's unmatched for sure.
Right. As a voice actor, how do you kind of create that scene? Nothing's really there. You have
Mm,
it's drawn, you have some pencil work probably and some color,
right,
but how do you
right.
create that and stay in that emotion?
It's definitely a lot of visualization. Thankfully, I have a very active imagination. um, but I kind of am able to close my eyes and just, especially when they're reading me in, or having the storyboards in front of me also do really help. A lot of the recording process was kind of looking at the scene to kind of see the pacing, and it kind of is like rough sketches and a slideshow to kind of show me what's
Mhm.
happening. Um, but which was also really cool because when you work that way instead of ADR, you're able to have a little bit more freedom with how you read things. ADR, similar to what they do for like anime, for instance,
Mhm.
they will have you kind of match the lip flaps and that sort of thing, which is super cool, and that's an art in and of itself.
Right.
But being able to kind of have the general idea and have that freedom to just speak,
Mhm.
and then knowing that they'll just animate around however you say your line definitely helps.
Right. The different characters that are in the story, was there someone that you personally kind of related to other than Hal?
Definitely Dahlia.
Mhm.
um I'm the eldest child of four, and the way that she kind of was the leader and always had to rally everybody together and was always the center of the big picture. It's like, okay, she the way she supported everybody too. Um I really resonated with that character. Dolly is definitely one of my favorite characters in the movie.
Right. When recording, do you find yourself having to get physical in the booth in terms of really making sure?
Oh
capturing
yeah,
their emotions.
I talk with my hands a
Mhm.
lot. I very much am like "Wah!" I move my hands around a lot. It kind of helps me to put myself in that situation where
Mhm.
if I'm saying this and or doing that, or especially for things like efforts, like if I'm it's like okay, like Hal is running, like so imitate that. It's like
Right,
that
right.
sort of thing definitely really helps.
Did you find that the illustrators, the animators were kind of copying or looking intensely at how you were in the booth in terms of the animation and getting those emotions and the full facial expressions?
I definitely do feel that in the final product and the final rendering of the movie
Mhm.
that I did notice that there were certain mannerisms that I had that were kind of implemented into the character, which was super cool. Um because of course, with animatics and storyboarding, there's not it's very flat. um so in the final copy of the movie, it was insane seeing like, oh, like even things like when I talk, I kind of like add a little laugh before I came in with this line, and now Hal has done that, and that was super cool.
Ooh, I like that. That's very nice.
Hmm.
With this, I was wondering, was there also a favorite song? There's so many beautiful songs in here.
Oh yeah, it was full of beautiful songs. My favorite song definitely are between This Wish and
Mhm.
which I don't believe I had heard the original. I was on the reprise, so I had heard the melody, and I from the beginning I loved it. Like I just loved the cadence of it and the way it sounded. But in going to theaters and hearing the final version of the solo version was insane. It just is such a beautiful song. Me and my mom were bawling. we were we were crying. We're I'm a Pisces. I can't help it.
Right.
But and knowing what I know now, it really just feels like a revolution is starting. A revolution hit the ground running. It sure feels like it, and it definitely has become one of my favorite Disney songs of all time.
Wonderful. How does this experience kind of influence you in the other future product projects?
So this experience has been it has been so life changing for me. Um, it I definitely am taking this experience with me into any new projects. I learned a lot
Mhm.
in my time working on this movie. I definitely think that I'll continue to hopefully prosper and do big things like this. I realize I really enjoy working on movies, so hopefully we'll be going for more soon. Um, and yeah.
Was that initially kind of the goal was to kind of transition into animated movies?
So my goal has always been children's media.
Okay.
Um, I, with being an older sister and with like, I love kids. I've always loved kids. And I work part-time as a vocal coach for well, people of all ages, but I work with a lot of kids. And I've always just loved being able to kind of be be a voice of someone's future, if that makes sense. For
Mhm.
me growing up, there were so many teachers who I can like safely say I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing or be here without their support. And that those experiences always resonated with me. Um, having those experiences where it was like this teacher pushed me into doing music, or this teacher pushed me into doing acting and focusing on acting and encouraged me. And so with those experiences, it made me really want to do the same for other young children. Um and my initially my degree was in music education, and I was going to be focusing on middle school and high school.
Mhm.
um so with that being said, I'm hoping to kind of transition more into children's media as far as TV shows and movies are concerned. I would love to do more things like this.
Wonderful. I was wondering, what lessons did you kind of learn during this experience that you will now pass on to your students?
So I have a lot of students who have seen the movie and are
Mhm,
like, "Whoa, like, Miss Vargas is so cool." And I want to be like that when I grow up. And I've been able to kind of help them now to navigate like, what that process looks like. Um, I've had students that are like, "Well, how did you do it?" Like I would love to be able to do stuff like that when I get older. And I love being that voice for
mhm,
people who are budding performers, especially um growing up. I grew up in the Bronx in New York City, and we didn't have a whole lot of opportunities like this.
mhm,
I'm definitely the first of my family, and the first of many people in general. Of course, I realized that, and realized how blessed I am for this opportunity. But just um you know the way that I grew up and the community in which I grew up, like, this is just such a big deal. And I that's another thing, is I want to be able to continue to help people who feel less fortunate, to be able to pursue dreams like this. I want, I've taken that lesson, and I'm like, it's not impossible. I was often made to feel growing up as though it was something that was unattainable,
mhm.
because of my background, because of my upbringing, because of my disabilities. And
Right.
so I continue to instill in people and instill in my students that no, it's not impossible. You're only as good as something as good as something as you are dedicated. And especially in this industry, it's very much a matter of perseverance. The job is auditioning. The job
Mhm,
is very much auditioning. Um, and this opportunity completely presented itself to me, just from persevering. And this is my first film in general, but definitely one of the first major things that I've ever done.
mhm,
And so, with that being said, the lessons that I've gone on to instill in my students are just keep at it, persevere, continue to do what you love, because if you are doing something that you love, success will find you.
mhm. Thank you so much for speaking to me and keep persevering. Thank you despite everything. You are amazing. And
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much. Thank you so much. It was so nice meeting you.
You too.